Rain lashed against the newsroom windows. Sarah, hunched over her desk, ignored the storm's fury. A message blinked on her screen. Your past sins haunt you. Meet me at the old clock tower midnight. An anonymous sender. A shiver ran down her spine. This wasn't a prank. This was about the story she'd buried years ago, the one that still gave her nightmares, the one that could ruin her. The clock tower loomed, a skeletal silhouette against the stormy sky. Sarah's pulse quickened. She scanned the shadows, her hand gripping the pepper spray in her pocket. The air was thick with the smell of damp stone and fear. This was madness, but some unseen force drew her in.
This holds the truth you seek. Within these pages lies the answer to the questions that have haunted you for so long. But be warned, powerful forces want it silenced. Forces that will stop at nothing to keep these secrets hidden from the world.
A figure emerged from the darkness, face obscured by a hooded cloak. The air around him seemed to thicken, as if the shadows themselves were alive. He held out a worn, leather-bound book, its cover cracked and aged, as if it had seen centuries of secrets and lies. This holds the truth you seek, he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. Yet it carried the weight of 1,000 untold stories. But be warned, powerful forces want it silenced, he repeated, his eyes glinting with a warning that sent chills down her spine. Sarah's heart pounded. Was this a trap? Every instinct screamed at her to run, but curiosity and desperation held her in place. She had to know what the book contained, what secrets it held about her past and the story she had tried so hard to forget. The answers she sought were within her grasp, but at what cost? The clock ticked, each clang a hammer blow to her nerves. Time was running out, and she could feel the weight of every second pressing down on her. She took the book, its leather cold and damp in her hand. The texture sent a shiver through her, as if the book itself was alive with the secrets it held. Who are you? Why are you doing this? Sarah's voice trembled as she demanded answers, her mind racing with possibilities. The figure was gone, vanished back into the shadows as if he had never been there. The darkness swallowed him whole, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. Only the echo of her own fear remained. She clutched the book to her chest, knowing that whatever lay within its pages would change her life forever. The journey ahead was uncertain, but she was determined to uncover the truth no matter the cost. Days turned into a blur of deciphering cryptic notes, following dead-end leads. The book, a diary of a long-dead journalist, spoke of a conspiracy reaching the highest levels of power. Sarah dug deeper, her gut churning with a mixture of dread and adrenaline. She was onto something huge, something dangerous. She could feel eyes on her, watching, waiting. A black sedan with tinted windows had taken up permanent residence across from her apartment. They weren't even trying to be discreet. She was a fly caught in a spiderweb. The more she struggled, the more entangled she became. Panic clawed at her throat. She needed help.
This goes deeper than you can imagine, kid. They control everything. The media, the police, even the government.
Mark, her old mentor, a grizzled veteran of countless scandals, listened intently as Sarah laid out her findings. Skepticism warred with concern in his eyes. Sarah, could it be true? Could the conspiracy be this vast, this insidious? Sarah's blood ran cold. She had stumbled upon something monstrous, something that could shake the very foundations of their society. But how could she fight an enemy that lurked in the shadows, an enemy that could be anyone and everyone? Fear threatened to consume her, but a flicker of resolve burned bright. She wouldn't back down. She wouldn't be silenced.
Mark ran a hand through his thinning hair, his face etched with worry. The weight of the situation bore down on him, making every decision feel like a step on a tightrope. We need to expose them, Sarah, but we have to be smart. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about everyone who has been affected by their actions. They'll be expecting us to go to the press. The media is already under their influence, and any move we make will be scrutinized. He leaned closer, his voice low and urgent. We need to find a way to get the truth out without tipping them off. We need to find someone we can trust, someone outside the system, someone who hasn't been compromised.
The weight of his words settled heavily upon Sarah. She knew the stakes were high, but hearing it out loud made it all the more real. Trust was a luxury she could ill afford. Every person she had once considered an ally now seemed like a potential threat. The line between ally and enemy had blurred, leaving her with a chilling sense of paranoia. Every shadow seemed to hide a potential betrayer. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being played, that she was a pawn in a game she didn't understand. The moves were being made around her, and she was struggling to keep up. But she had come too far to turn back now. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but retreat was not an option. She had to trust someone, even if it meant risking everything. The fragile alliance they were forming was their only hope, and she had to believe it would hold. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. She knew that every decision from this point on would be critical. Together, they began to lay out their plan, each step carefully considered. They knew the risks, but they also knew the importance of their mission. Time was of the essence, and they couldn't afford any mistakes. Every second counted, and they had to make them all count. With a final nod, they solidified their fragile alliance, ready to face whatever came their way. The journey ahead was uncertain, but they were committed to seeing it through. Days turned into weeks. The pressure mounted. Sarah and Mark worked tirelessly, following leads, chasing shadows, their every move scrutinized. The diary held clues, cryptic messages, and coded entries. With each passing day, the net seemed to tighten around them. They were running out of time. One name kept resurfacing in the diary: the Raven. Who was this mysterious figure? A source? An enemy? Or something else entirely? The more they dug, the more Sarah felt a knot of unease tighten in her stomach. Something wasn't right.
The Raven is key, Mark said, his voice tight with urgency. We need to find him before they do.
They had uncovered plans for a grand gala, a gathering of the city's elite, a who's who of power and influence. The diary hinted at a sinister purpose behind the lavish facade, a plan so audacious it defied belief. Sarah stared at the invitation in her hand, the gilded lettering a mocking reminder of the opulent world she was about to infiltrate. The gala was their only shot, their chance to expose the truth, to bring down the powerful cabal that held the city hostage. But it was a gamble, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse where one wrong move could cost them everything. The gala buzzed with false smiles and whispered secrets. Sarah, disguised in a sleek black dress, felt like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Her nerves thrummed with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The air crackled with tension, a palpable sense of dread hanging heavy in the air. Tonight, the mask would be lifted. Tonight, the truth would be revealed.
She spotted him across the room, his back to her, his posture radiating an aura of power. The Raven. He turned, and her breath caught in her throat. It was him, the man from the clock tower, his face now revealed, his eyes cold and calculating. Betrayal cut through her like a knife.
He smiled, a chillingly familiar smile, and raised his glass in a mocking toast.
"Welcome, Sarah," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I believe we have much to discuss."
He knew her name. He had been playing her all along. The weight of his betrayal threatened to crush her.
You were the one who gave me the book?" Sarah stammered, her voice trembling with rage and confusion.
He nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving hers.
"Why? What was the point of all this?"
To expose the truth, of course, he said, his voice laced with a hint of amusement. Just not in the way you expected. He launched into a detailed explanation, a twisted tale of revenge and manipulation. The conspiracy was real, he confirmed, but his motives were far more personal. He had used Sarah, using her thirst for justice, her unwavering determination, to exact his own brand of vengeance.
"You were nothing but a pawn in my game," he said, his voice cold and devoid of remorse. "But don't worry, you played your part perfectly."
Sarah's blood ran cold. He had used her, manipulated her, and now he was discarding her like a broken toy. But she refused to be his victim. She would expose him even if it was the last thing she did. She lunged for him, her desperation palpable, but he was too quick, his movements almost a blur. He caught her wrist, his grip like a vice, unyielding and cold. She could feel the strength in his fingers, the determination in his hold. His eyes held a mixture of admiration and contempt, a complex dance of emotions that left her both confused and intrigued. It was as if he saw something in her that she herself had yet to discover.
"You're a fighter, Sarah," he said, his voice softening slightly, almost as if he regretted the necessity of his actions. "But some battles are unwinnable. Sometimes the cost is too high, and the price of truth is more than anyone should have to pay. But some battles are unwinnable," he continued, his tone heavy with the weight of experience. "I've seen it too many times. The defeated soldier, the boxer who gave it his all but still fell short. It's a harsh reality."
He released her, and she stumbled back, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. The fear was overwhelming, a tidal wave of panic that threatened to drown her. He was gone, vanished into the night, leaving her with nothing but questions and a chilling sense of unease. The shadows seemed to swallow him whole, and the empty street echoed with the silence of his departure. The conspiracy had been exposed, but at what cost? The documents laid bare the truth, but they also revealed the depths of deception and betrayal. The faces of those who had trusted her were now etched with worry and doubt. She had uncovered the truth, but it had come at a price. The flash drive in her hand felt heavy, a symbol of the burden she now carried. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman changed, conflicted, and troubled by the weight of her discovery. The line between justice and revenge, between truth and manipulation, had blurred beyond recognition. The scales of justice tipped precariously, and the courtroom became a battleground where the lines of morality were constantly shifting. And Sarah was left to grapple with the consequences, forever haunted by the knowledge that some secrets, once unearthed, can never be buried again. The dark room around her seemed to close in, and her haunted expression reflected the inner turmoil that would never truly fade. She knew that the price of truth was a heavy one, and she would carry its weight for the rest of her life.